Hi, it's Luca Guadagnino.
Hi, I'm Timothée Chalamet.
I'm Taylor Russell.
And this is Notes on a Scene.
We are going to see the moment in which Maren, played by you, meets for the first time Lee, played by you. Maren has left home in search of her mother, and she needs stuff that she can't buy, so she's getting into this store to shoplift. I remember when we shot this sequence, we took over an empty warehouse that had these great windows that could see the America outside, and then Elliot Hostetter, our wonderful production designer, and Marissa Lombardo, the amazing set decorator, and Matt Marks and Mike Drury, the prop masters, they basically created this thing. It's all original pieces from the 80s, merchandise that doesn't exist anymore, that gave all the real beautiful texture. But I also think that we should talk about the way Maren and Lee look in this. Maren is shoplifting.
The jacket I'm wearing there, it's kind of this protective layer. It's her dad's jacket.
If I may.
I guess.
Right. But I love Taylor's expression here because as audience members will find out when they see the movie, there's a sort of smell that eaters can have for each other, but equal to the sort of instinctual attraction they have for each other. I feel like, and simply in Taylor's expression here, there's the curiosity and openness to finding self in the other that is so true of young love.
And in this scene, I think I was shoplifting tampons.
Yeah.
You see the big backpack, the fringe that Luca had so vividly in his mind when we started.
The fringe that Maren wears comes directly from Jonathan Demme's Silence of the Lambs, and it's come from a small character in the movie, which is the best friend of Frederica Bimmel, that Clarice Starling, played by Jodie Foster, interviews in order to find clues about the case she's going after. And this was this beautiful high fringe, and Massimo and Fernanda, the makeup artist and the hair designer of the movie, and we had this image in our mind since then. So we said that this is a time to play.
Chop.
Yes, and you made that chop this. And what about your look?
And we like this idea with Lee that he sort of had forged his clothing and his look from people that he had met along his travels, whether it was people that were his prey, for lack of a better expression, or people that simply had forged around in their homes. So his wardrobe is sort of genderless and is a little bit all over the place, and what he's wearing today could be gone tomorrow. And this hair color here, Luca and I struggled with for quite a bit because we were going in a sort of a lighter direction for a while and a sort of a more expressionistic thing. And then when we were doing research with the hair designer Massimo, we realized that in the late 1980s, a lot of hair colors weren't available. So we actually founded a hair product from the late 80s that was still usable.
We sculpted it with the cut.
It's true. We did a camera test in upstate New York about a month before the movie started. I like this idea very much that on the outskirts of society, you could think a young person, a young cannibal, would be outside any sort of social system and not be looking in the mirror per se. And to the opposite, I think Luca and I both thought that Lee, because he's starved of social contact, would actually be desperate for identity and expressing himself and trying to find himself in the gaze of another person.
What is the beautiful about this in this sequence is how, by simple juxtaposition of you and you looking at each other across the camera, it is the most powerful moment and it's the most beautiful effect. We don't need much. We need just two great actors doing that. It's beautiful.
Excuse me?
Oh, you trying to run me down?
In your expression here, you can see how you are very absolutely understanding that this guy is trouble and that this guy, in a way, represents anything that your character is running away from.
There's a lot of older men in this movie that I feel that Maren's always kind of, assessing or reflecting her journey off of, and this is another example of that. And also of Lee. in this.
Yeah, there is a line. I mean, it's between
Yeah.
the two of you against him, which this
Yeah.
is the movie. The movie is about these two young, beautiful lovers who, no matter what their real problem they have within their own nature, they're still having to fight a lot of challenges and win over in order to achieve the impossible.
Hear this, you dumb
Hey,
hoe?
don't talk to her like that.
Hey! You're out of control, buddy.
This is the first example you see and that she's seen of somebody in her life who has stuck up for her, who have been on her side. So it's indicative of the relationship in the rest of the movie.
Dumb
Hey,
hoe.
don't talk to her like that.
Hey! You're out of control, buddy. You at the store or something?
No, I'm not at the store, but I'm gonna escort you out of it.
I love this moment. She is really feisty and she's very courageous. Maren is going after a big man and really she's saying what she feels she has to say in order to put him on his place. And Lee suddenly steps in to add his voice, so to the two, one becomes two and two becomes one together against that moment, that person. But what I love about it, on top of it, is how Trent Reznor's and Atticus Ross' score suddenly enters the scene and create a connection between the two of you guys with this beautiful romantic moment of guitar that immediately underline that finally one and one has become one unit, the two of you guys.
You at the store or something?
No, I'm not at the store, but I'm gonna escort you out of it.
Fucking see what happens.
See what happens?
Yeah.
What's gonna happen? Something bad's gonna happen?
Yeah. Outside. We're going outside.
You enjoy hassling people, man? Is that what you do on Saturdays? You better jerk it off?
That she's the first one to step to him, and that Lee quickly picks up on the moment to, you know, make a brave stand in front of her. But true to the nature of the character, if people see the movie, Lee's sort of amorphous, I would say. You're trying to figure out his moral compass and who he is, sort of day to day and moment to moment without a clear path. And I think Maren's a very inspiring figure to him because she's much more steely in her resolve. Her moral compass is more set. It's not as janky.
You can see because the lady is hiding, but Lee has just stolen the hat from Barry, I think it's the name of the character. And this hat that he's going to wear, another moment of him appropriating himself with a piece of his victims and putting him on top of himself. I love the corn here very much. It's very American to me. I don't know, maybe I'm stupid, but corn in America is very big
It's
to
a
me.
big thing, yeah.
Yes? That's another moment that I love, is Maren becoming the American landscape. And in shooting this movie, I'm Italian, and I mean, I know America quite well. I've been there for many, many times, but this is my first American movie. And of course, I love Hollywood cinema and American cinema, and so I've been seeing so many movies about America, from America, that when I came there to do it, I was kind of humbled by the idea of approaching the landscape and, in general, the Americana. And what we tried to do was to be at the height of the characters, to see the place from their perspective. She might feel guilty here, right?
Yeah.
That she stole.
Well,
There is always
see
a
the
moral.
little-
You have always a moral compass.
She stole a lollipop, too. I don't know. I mean, I think that's the thing with Maren through the whole movie, is that she does these things. This purely is for survival, too. She's never stolen before. This is the first time. And having first at that age, she's 18, you know, it's terrifying.
Yeah, and I like the way the direction of your gaze toward what you're leaving behind, because both Maren and Lee, they particularly fight their identity, and they're trying to find a place in the world that could contain them, despite who they are and what they have to do by the sheer power of their nature. Our wonderful Arseni Khachaturan, who is the director of photography of this movie, he was 27 when we shot this film, which is shot in 35 millimeters. In this movie, he was so wonderful in understanding the light of the time, even though he wasn't even born in that time, in the 80s. And so, like, you can see how powerful he was in portraying the light of America. She still is like thinking of what she has done and what she has left behind, when suddenly something in front of her, it's having a very strong pull toward her, right? And this plays with another 27-year-old collaborator of ours, Marco Costa, the editor, where you can see how he made us feel how Maren is unavoidably attracted to what is in front of her. These three cuts are telling us, Hitchcock way, that there is something there that she's attracted by. You managed to get us this very abstracting concept that they can smell each other.
I just remember you saying "smell more" on the day.
Was it that thing then? Okay.
Yeah. It was hard for me to gauge what would read or not, or if it would be, I don't know, if I would work doing that.
And he's smelling something very strong, because he turns to look at her, and she's quite far, because he feels her presence, right?
Mm-hmm. I like this moment very much, too. I like how Taylor just put it as well, because if for her this is the first day where she had to play sort of the smelling attributes of the eater, this was the first day that I had to viscerally play this eater post-eating, I guess would be the expression. And that was fascinating for me, because here we were in the countryside of Ohio. This building had a couple notices. It was in disrepair. And it was on this day I really realized how different this experience was with Luca compared to the beautiful Italian countryside that I spent a summer in when I was 20. And all of a sudden I was, had a bunch of SFX blood going down my chest. As Luca said, I like this hat figure right here, because this hat was worn by Barry in the prior scene. I like this. This is very telling about what I like about cinema, is that that I, in other movies I do like, upon a first watch of a movie where a costume feature or a character feature becomes very synonymous with what you're watching, and then upon a second watch you realize, oh wait, that's something that was new to that character at the beginning of the movie.
What Timothée does so well from the prior scene to this scene is that his body language is so creature-like, and it's so vivid seeing how changed he is from, kind of being, this, I don't know, he has a swag in the scene before, and he's so embodied to, I think you see how high he is almost after his meal.
There is something animalistic in your body language.
And it's something that Taylor and Luca and I talked about a lot, which was, what is the experience for, what is the out-of-body, what is the conscious experience when these eaters go through this, and without appropriating or being disingenuous towards actual chemical experiences people have when they're addicted. It was something in that world that we try to figure out, something that would be out-of-body, where the decisions you're making, the high you're feeling, the sequence of events that's happening, you're not really present to, and you're just putting one foot in front of the next.
I love the way you show curiosity. There is here, Maren is intensely curious and amazed by what she's seeing, and maybe she thinks that finally she is meeting someone who can help her out.
Yeah.
What I love about this movie is that we're going something very dark, but eventually very romantic, but we're basically playing with what cinema gives us the pleasure of playing with, which is heightened emotions and acting and playing with your...
And what I like about the magnetizing between Lee and Maren here is, if you think about a sort of mating dance or a mating ritual, Taylor just pointed out the body language. This is the least sexy stuff you could be doing in the world, but because they're bonded by it, irresistibly pull to each other. It's not something you'd want to see on a first date.
Well, I think it's super iconic. Love it. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
That was so sweet.
That was